what the company is actually doing, like customer experience. If someone is mistreating you, no matter how cool the product is, you will look for an alternative to buy that product from another supplier or vendor. So we looked at their customer segment. So we wondered, okay, how can we personalize the website? And we've done some stupid personalization based on the traffic source, based on the weather conditions, based on a lot of things that might seem incredible, but they are not, because eventually what really matters is not what you know about the customer, but how the customer feels towards your brand. At the end of the day, theory is nothing without the experience, and experience is nothing without the theory. So you need both of them.
This podcast is brought to you by Bambassadors.com, the go-to platform for e-commerce brands to create video reviews that boost social proof and sales on TikTok and beyond. Get your first video review created and posted by a genuine creator, completely free, no strings attached, and no credit card required at Bambassadors.com.
Welcome to the eCom X Factor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of eCom X Factor, Yaron Bin.
Hi, Valentin. How are you?
Hey there, Ron. I'm quite well. Let's do this.
Awesome. Great. I'm very excited for this conversation. Before hopping on the call, I looked in your guys' website and the blog post, and I really love the amount of value that you're providing. And I didn't try your solution yet, which I'm kind of sorry that I didn't take the opportunity, but it seems like a great solution, and I'm looking forward for this conversation. So can you elaborate about your solution?
Yeah, of course. I'm building an e-commerce growth suite. We started back in 2013. And we are tackling the problem of e-commerce growth by using the data analysis, by using the first-party data, like what we know about the customers, and by using zero-party data, what the customers are sharing with us, so that e-commerce companies could improve the customer journey and aspects that are not that sexy, or they weren't that sexy, things like customer lifetime value, customer retention, because I've been an e-commerce entrepreneur myself, and I know that e-commerce growth is not only a matter of how many customers you acquire, but how many customers you are delighting. Yeah, how many customers you are keeping, and that are transforming from simple one-time customers to returning customers, and then raving fans that are amplifying the network effect that you're after.
Sounds great. Yeah. And you're right. It wasn't sexy, but it's becoming sexier and sexier, the lifetime value, because the acquisition is becoming so expensive. So customer lifetime value becomes sexier and sexier. And you mentioned the word delighting the customers. So I really like this definition. You should delight and over-deliver. And how do you measure this? Do you measure this with the Net Promoter Score?
Yeah, exactly. We have a technology. Our technology, our suite of products has also the component of surveys. And we're not only measuring the NPS, but we measure it at two important moments in the customer journey. Pre-delivery, so when the customers are buying the product, the marketing of your product, because they haven't seen the product, of course, if you're not selling, commodities. And we are also measuring it post-delivery. So once the customers have got the product, and the difference between the NPS pre and post-delivery, we call it the expectations gap, because as you've said, it's about over-delivering, right? So if you can under-promise and over-deliver, then that gets the customers to activate some dopamine and serotonin, because that's unexpected, and they feel delighted and they want to do something about it. So they end up sharing their great experience with your product or with your e-commerce on their social media. So the whole idea is to measure what matters, and NPS is a way to measure that.
Awesome. And do you have any nice and interesting examples that comes to mind of a brand that you saw that over-delivered lately by providing a gift or something like this?
Yeah, I think the best example is one of our first early adopters on what we're building. So to give you the backstory, I've been an e-commerce entrepreneur and I've struggled like crazy to make it work. We were investing like 1 million in AdWords, and we were barely breaking even. So imagine having a company with 60 employees at that moment, not making the cut, being mocked up by your friends, because they were living the easy life, like 9-to-5 jobs, very well paid at some corporate big multinational companies, and they were making fun of me at the phone because I was putting something like 12 to 14 hours working, and I couldn't afford to go out with them at the club. So because of that struggle, because no pain, no gain, like they say, because of that struggle, I've started to analyze the NPS for us, and we analyzed what makes customers happy, which are our best customers, and so on. So one of our first early adopters is a company which is selling office supplies, and they were looking to keep their best customers coming, right? So they wanted to make sure that their best customers are happy. So we've started to do this NPS pre and post delivery, and then they realized that they need more touch points because they have high ticket customers that were ordering office supplies every month or so. So they wanted to prevent churning them. So what we did together with them, we realized that we need to analyze not only NPS pre and post delivery, but also NPS based on the touch point. So they've ended up measuring NPS by the customer service rep, which was at the phone. And the discrepancy was fantastic. So they had something like 12 people on their customer support team, and they had NPS like 95, but also they had NPS like 60 something. So it was a huge gap between these scores. So by analyzing this, they've started to give bonuses and to, of course, train the people, their people towards how to treat their customers. And that ended up improving their NPS by 25% and their customer retention rate by 20% as well. So mainly this type of impact is if you start with what matters, and at the end of the day, what matters is how the customers are feeling. I mean, feelings, like in that song, feelings, nothing more than feelings. So that's actually the reality, right?
And I'm not sure that I quite understood. So you also moved to calling the customers instead of sending them like the survey via email?
No, they've sent the surveys, but they've analyzed what is the NPS if John or Gina or let's say Mary is touching the customer, right? And Mary had an NPS which was fantastic, while John had the lousy NPS. So they've started to look at the touch points, the actual individuals which were touching the customers. One more example from my backstory. Now that you've turned me on, Ron. So we've been completely endangered by the market leader. So I was selling online car insurance here in Bucharest, Romania. We had been in the market for 4 or 5 years. We had already a customer base of 150,000 customers at that moment. And we were looking, of course, to have people coming to renew their insurance with us and also to acquire new customers. But the new challenger was the biggest player in the market. So here his name is EMAG, right? They were selling it. Imagine like you are starting to compete with Amazon in your market, right? So what we've done at that moment, we figured out what is the customer acquisition cost that we have and how much can we afford to over deliver to our customers, because we had a customer base of really enthusiast customers which were with us for 4 or 5 years in a row. So what we've done after we did the math, we decided let's see if we can improve our amplification with the existing customer base. And we realized that we have like 3,000 customers in Bucharest, which were really, really loyal to us. So what we've done is because we had their data, like when was their birthday, we got to buy some personalized cakes with their name on them. Nice. And we've shipped 3,000 anniversary cakes to them. And that was fantastic because they've amplified the brand like crazy, because you can imagine that people, when they are at their anniversaries, are all happy and all their friends and family are with them. But let's say the grim reality is that many people don't have anyone that they are sharing this precious moment to them with anyone. So because of that, we have focused on their emotions. And we had a lot of people which were, let's say, what we figured out is that not all the customers were that happy at this important moment in their lives. And we had a lot of, older people or cool people that were not sharing this moment with anyone. And they had tears in their eyes, because I've personally delivered something like 100 anniversary cakes in that week. And they were like, how you thought about me? I mean, imagine that a random company that you bought something from, it's giving you an anniversary cake with your name on it. And it was an impactful act that we've done at that moment. We were measuring a thing on the thank you page, which is called How Have You Heard About Us? And we've got from 20% from a friend to 60% from a friend in the next 3 months from that, because those 3,000 people were our cheerleaders. They've amplified the brand, and that allowed us to also improve the NPS and get amplification from the existing customer base.
Amazing. This is a very smart move. And what I like about this is you don't necessarily have to provide a product that is relevant to what they already bought. So let's say, even if you're selling car insurances, if you give a cake, you don't have to necessarily provide something that is related to your brand. So this is a nice way to think out of the box, and also maybe reduce costs, because I assume that the cakes, you bought them in bulk and they were not that expensive.
Exactly. It was not. It was fraction of what we were paying to acquire a new customer.
Awesome. This is great. Okay, we kind of dived very fast into the details, which is great. But I want to take like a step back and ask you about the CVO Academy, which you are growing, and what are the main modules in the academy?
Yeah, so we've launched it in April 2021. We realized that a lot of e-commerce companies are not aware about they've heard about customer lifetime value, but it's not something that they can get a grip on. I mean, a lot of companies think that they are measuring it, but they are not measuring it correctly. A lot of companies don't have the skills to actually go in depth to understand what customer lifetime value. So we've built the academy together with 8 different instructors, and we are tackling the pillars of customer lifetime value. So there are mainly 3 things. 3 pillars. One is, if you want to improve the customer lifetime value, you need to worry about what you're actually selling. So what the company sells is mandatory, because if you sell suboptimal products, don't expect someone to come back and buy it again, right? So that's product optimization, right? Looking at the products which are churning the customers and so on. So that's a part of the course. Another part of the CLV Academy is the CVO Academy is what the company is actually doing, like customer experience. If someone is mistreating you, no matter how cool the product is, you will look for an alternative to buy that product from another supplier or vendor. And the 3rd pillar is what the company says, which is marketing. As you can see, marketing comes last, because a lot of companies are misled about the fact that marketing is, they need to change what they say, but it's not about what they say. It's like in human relationships. It's like in a relationship, like it doesn't matter if you say I love you 20 times if you are not bringing her flowers, right? If what you're doing, or if you are forgetting about the anniversary that you have with her. So it's pretty much the same kind of relationship between a brand and the customer. So mainly the CVO Academy tackles the issue of customer lifetime value, and it's addressing the product optimization, the customer experience with Carl Gillis, qualitative and the quantitative research that you need to do on your own customers. It's addressing the email marketing with the Val Geisler which is the chief evangelist at Klaviyo, and with Chase Dimon, which is one of the smartest guys in the email marketing landscape. It's also addressing the Facebook ad campaigns with is a stud when it comes to the Facebook PPC. So with this kind of people, the CVO Academy represents a very serious endeavor for any brand which is willing to improve customer lifetime value, because the lack in the industry is not for more tools. There are a myriad of tools. The knowledge is the problem, because the academic institutions are not, let's say, updated with what the heck is going on over here in the market, and that's why we've decided, okay, let's build this academy, this online academy for practitioners, for e-commerce leaders, which are actually willing to improve their customer lifetime value and decrease customer acquisition cost.
Awesome. Wow, so many interesting, this is a junction which I'm kind of not sure where should I take it. But before, I want to share like a quote that you mentioned, what you do is more important. So there's a quote that I like. I think it's by Ralph Waldo Emerson, but I'm not sure. He says, "What you do speaks so loud, I can't even hear a word that you're saying."
Yeah.
And this is exactly what you talked about. And I totally agree regarding the fact that people need to optimize the product and the experience, because there's no point of thinking about lifetime value and retention if you don't at least deliver according to the expectation of the customer. Because if you give a shitty experience, you can forget about the retention. But I want to ask you a question regarding something that you mentioned a bit prior to this. So you said that many people are measuring incorrectly. So can you elaborate about how are people measuring incorrectly?
Yeah. So one of the biggest mistakes that they are doing is that first they look at the revenue per customer instead of the customer lifetime value. So what you're getting from a customer in total, is the revenue per customer, right? So you need to subtract other things than the media costs. So the customer acquisition cost is to be put in balance with the customer lifetime value as well. Then you should also look at how you cope with the things like the general and administrative costs and with the cost of goods sold, which is COGS, right? So one of the mistakes that we are seeing is that customers are looking only shallow, like, yeah, we are getting 2.4 orders per customer and the AOV is 100. That means $240 customer lifetime value. And they also take the average margin that they have. Let's say they have 20% margin. That means $48. So we need, we can spend $48, which is wrong. It's wrong because you need to look at the CLV by certain categories. So when you acquire a certain customer from a certain category, you need to understand that. Another thing is that they don't segment their customers. When you look at the CLV, that's an average. So you need to look at the CLV by the RFM segment. RFM stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value. Yeah. So you score customers according to how recently, how frequently, and what's their total monetary value, how much they've spent. And then you look at the customer lifetime value for each of them. And the best would be to look, instead of looking at only at the revenue, to look at either at the gross margin per entire lifetime of the customer, either at the net margin for the entire lifetime of the customer. And there is a whole debate about how to calculate properly the CLV, but my suggestion is that you need to find a way that is not giving you a lot of headaches down the line, but it's also accurate enough so that you can make data-driven decisions. And usually what I suggest is, instead of bothering with the net margin, to look at the gross margin. So not the revenue, not the net margin, but the gross margin per customer, because that's the easiest. And it's the easiest to get. And of course, to look at the CLV by category, brand, customer segment, so that you can understand where to invest better. So the number one reason why companies are tracking CLV is to make better decisions in how they invest their money. And many companies are either too shy and they want to profit from the first purchase for all the customers, and that means they are growing very slow, and other competitors which are either more bold or better funded are grabbing their market share, and that's the problem. And on the other side of the spectrum, there are companies which are only guesstimating what they should be investing, and they invest like crazy. So the wealthy balance between what you are getting from a customer and how much you're investing to acquire that customer should be around 3-to-1 when you look at the gross margin. Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. And can you share a bit about, like, do you have any rules of thumbs of what you advise or suggest for people in regards to segmentation? Because basically what you're suggesting is very professional, and I assume that many store owners with small stores are not segmenting and think, okay, this all sounds well, but I just want to break even at the moment. But on the other hand, this can't be overlooked. So do you have any rules of thumb? So let's say if you're under $1,000 daily, so only do like X segments. Obviously, this is a very general, depends on the customer, depends on the industry, but how would you suggest people approach the segmentation, the amount of segmentation, amount of drilling down into the numbers?
So that's a very good question. Like, when is the moment to bother with so advanced stuff?
Exactly.
So Ran, the rule of thumb, based on the data that we're getting, we have access to more than 2,000 e-commerce stores which are pushing data to our system to segment their customers. We are definitely sure that the moment when you should be focusing on segmentation is after you're more than 7-figure. So that means you can let's say add some complexity in the game so that you can do this type of RFM segmentation. If you have a low average order value, you should be bothering about this even earlier than that, because you want to amplify the consumption habits and the buying habits, of course. But consumption comes first. So you need to understand who are the customers that are buying over and over again and why they are buying it. And many companies are not asking those simple questions. Like, if you don't have the answers to these questions, how can you go out there and spend $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 a day or a week on Facebook ads? Because you don't know who's your best customer to acquire. And that's why RFM segmentation should be made as quickly as possible so that you can understand your best customers. It's not hard to understand them. So customer research means simply interviewing your 5-10 customers, right? So if you have 5 or 10 very loyal customers that are buying over and over again from you, you should be going out there and do this kind of research. One important thing, though, even if you're a startup, is to focus on the net promoter score from day one, because many companies are not having this approach like a software development company. So they think that they've made it already. They think that their prototype, which is their car, is already done. So they are just putting gasoline in their tanks. But the problem is that they should be starting to think that they haven't made an e-commerce which is fully functional. They've made a prototype. So their unique value proposition, their UI, and their whole life cycle of the customer is not done, because they haven't even crafted consciously the customer journey. So even though they haven't done this, they think they've done it. So they just focus on acquisition without validating if the customers are delighted, if the customers are so pleased that they are becoming brand ambassadors for their company. So that's why NPS should be monitored from day one, because you are in a constant feedback loop, and the faster you learn, the more you grow.
Quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app, and we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And this is very important, especially these days, where I see a trend of a lot of dropshipping going out of the game because the CPMs are becoming so much higher and the competition is so much higher. And in the past, a lot of people entered the dropshipping game, and they could have maybe found a quote unquote winning product and just push very hard with regards to Facebook ads, like you said, pouring gasoline into the product, into the ads, but the customer experience was shitty, and this isn't a way to build a long-term business. So I totally agree with the NPS and the fact that it should be monitored in day one. And I think it's very overlooked. And this is sad. And I think it's very important. What you're doing is promoting the idea of the importance of NPS. So this is great. And you mentioned a few times the RFM model. I must admit that I didn't know this by this name. I mean, logically, I understood it, but I didn't know this specific model. So can you elaborate about how to use this model?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I'll be glad to explain it a bit. So RFM, I've discovered the importance of RFM by working with a few companies which were not making it. So we first started as a CRO solution. So imagine having Google optimized on steroids back in 2013, right? We were helping companies to improve the conversion rate by doing A/B testing, web personalization, and surveys. And at some moment, one of our biggest customers were stuck. So after 2 years of continuous experimentation, they were not cutting it. So we've wondered, okay, what can we do? Because tweaking the UI interface, the website, A/B, whatever, was not making it happen for them anymore. So we looked at their customer segment. So we wondered, okay, how can we personalize the website? And we've done some stupid personalization based on the traffic source, based on the weather conditions, based on a lot of things that might seem incredible, but they are not, because eventually what really matters is not what you know about the customer, but how the customer feels towards your brand. So if you give them a relevant experience and you know that he's a loyal customer, that it's also pissed off because you've delayed their shipment last time, then that's incredible, because you'll give a treatment which is relevant. Because eventually that's what we need as human beings, right? To get the proper treatment according to the relationship that we have with one another. And that's our expectations with the brands as well. We looked at their customers eventually, and we understood, hey, we need to focus on things like RFM segmentation. So we need to focus on the customers that most recently, most frequently, and that have the highest monetary value. They had something like 400,000 customers at that moment. And after we ran the data, we realized something incredible, that 25% of their margin was coming from only 2% of their customers. Those 8,000 customers were fantastically profitable for them. And then we've started to analyze who's their ideal customer. So we've made some demographics. We've understood that even though they thought that they are selling to ladies that are in their 30s, they were selling to ladies that were in their 50s, and to men as well, which were in their 50s, while the brand was too young for the audience that they had. We also realized that the best customers that they had were coming from small cities where they haven't got those shopping malls. So we realized a lot of things regarding the RFM. So RFM stands for this recency, frequency, and monetary value. You give scores from, let's say, 1 to 3 if you're a small brand, or 1 to 5 if you're a larger brand. And based on these scores, you'll have various types of customers, like the ones with the highest recency, the highest frequency, and the highest monetary value. Those few customers are what we call the ideal customers, or the soulmates. Yeah. And those are the customers that you need to A, treat better, and B, acquire more.
Nice. Awesome. This is very interesting. And it's also a great framework, very easy. You just multiply the score, the customer that get the highest score, or your VIP.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've built a solution to tackle exactly this problem, because we've done it. Imagine that it was a lot of manual work, to tag all the customers, to run off this data, and then you did it once, and in 1 month those are changing, because time is important there, right? So maybe right now you have 5,000 customers which are in the ex-lovers group, let's say, the ones that used to be VIPs and now they are gone. So, but in 1 month, maybe 500 of them, you convince them to buy again. So these are the things that you can do with RFM.
Awesome. So yeah, I really like this this framework, and also the recency. It's very important to take into account the recency factor. And when you explained, you also talked about web personalization, which is a question that I wanted to ask later on. But since you brought this up, so I wanted to ask you, what did you see with regards to web personalization that did make any lift in conversion? I mean, any type of personalization that really worked?
Yeah, so what it's crucially important and impactful in website personalization, as I've stated earlier, is to mind the relationship that the customer has with you. Pushing RFM segments and giving a special treatment to the customers which are in certain groups, that really helps. So mainly, and it's not about the discounting or ruining your margin, but it's more about the fact that you acknowledge the customer, that you know that he's there and he's an important customer for you. So RFM based segmentation is working in website personalization. Another thing is based on the cart value, like minding the high spender. So you can actually take into account the fact that you have a high spender on the website based on the basket size, right? Mm-hmm. For instance, let me give you an example that worked when we were selling this car insurance. We had truck drivers and we also have luxury cars owners, and those were making something like 60%, more than 60% of our net margin. And we made this real-time dynamic pricing, which we were pushing, which allowed us to push, okay, if the car model is this, then we will give a better discount down the line, because we can afford, the AOV is justifying personalizing the pricing for them. And that was a crucially impactful strategy for us. Another thing that worked is to get zero-party data. And this is, I think this is something that is so easy and so impactful that I wonder why not many companies are doing this, because you can set it and forget it. Let me give you an example. We have customers which are using our technologies and they are getting this type of zero-party data. Like they ask their customers, what makes you more open to buy our products? Let's say we have a company which is selling, it's called Biome Health. So they are selling probiotics, and they've made this research. We had them do this research with their best customers. They've identified the jobs to be done, like why the customers are buying their products. And they've identified 4 different jobs. Like customers were looking to buy probiotics to get a normal life. So they had so much pain in their lives that they were not looking for the energy or whatever. They were just looking to have a normal life, right? They were getting them to look better, and there were other 2 jobs. So based on the jobs, they are identifying the customer's intentions early in the sales funnel. In the top of funnel, and then they craft different journeys because their products are the same. Right? I mean, you have the same product, but for different usages. And it's let's say, common sense to give a different experience to different customers if they are using the product for different purposes. And this type of personalization can give an uplift of up to 30% in revenue per customer, revenue per visitor.
In a way, it's kind of similar to what a lot of brands are doing with quiz funnels. But do you see that the best practice is just asking one question, like just figuring out like what is the biggest pain? I mean, what is, in your opinion, from what you're seeing, because you have so many clients across different industries, what would be the best question to ask? What would be like the best serving way of segmenting, manner of segmenting? It is by obviously general question, can be by age, based on what they're looking to solve. So what are you seeing? And is it only one question or normally more?
That needs to be tested. So if you have enough traffic, my suggestion is to test the number of, let's say, possible answers and then to analyze the number of steps in this type of quiz. But the idea is not to just ask the questions, but to also use this type of questions. For instance, based on the RFM segmentation, you'll be able to see how much of the recurring revenue is being generated by job 1 or job 2. Let's say, help me look better. So if you're selling probiotics, let's say how much the look better job is worth to your business. And that means you're reinforcing this knowledge into acquisition as well, because you know how much to spend to acquire a customer that is going to buy the products for this purpose. So mainly the idea is to test, to see how many questions it generates the best revenue per visitor, because all these metrics we are tracking in the backend. And ideally, you might want the most profitable solution to your traffic, because as you've said, the CPAs are going through the roof. So you need to monetize the most visitors it's possible.
This is great because it's also like two birds with one stone in a way, because you segment. So you're probably going to increase the conversion rates. And as you said, it also enforces your knowledge. So also your marketing efforts also with regards to retention. So afterwards you can segment these customers and only send them relevant content based on the pain and the job that they wanted to be done. But my only thing that maybe my objection to this, and I'm wondering what is your thought about this, although it probably need to be tested in a way, I'm kind of afraid that if you get to ask too many questions, the customers might leave, because one of the main ideas in Facebook ads is getting to people to buy in an impulsive way, more or less. So if you start to ask questions and create a bit of friction, it might also hinder your conversion rates and your profits. So what is your take on this?
So the idea is that at the end of the day, if you optimize for short-term goals, you're right. But if you optimize for long-term goals, so mainly you need to optimize if you optimize for long-term goals, you need to learn. So from any experience, it's the same thing. Like sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. If you learn, if you're having a learning mindset. But if you don't, of course, let's say sacrificing your margin for it. So if you optimize for long-term goals, that means you optimize for customer lifetime value. And if you optimize for customer lifetime value, you need to understand what are the jobs to be done by your best customers, what makes them click, how to acquire more like them. And basically you are in this continuous learning process.
Yeah, I agree. And well said. And with regards to the personalization, so how different would you make each funnel afterwards? Like some people might only change the images because the persona is kind of different, or only change the messaging. So what is the minimum amount that you think is significant enough to adjust?
Yeah, I think the unique value proposition and the email onboarding should be changed. So at least the unique value proposition and the hero image on the landing page that you are acquiring those customers with, and the email onboarding. Let's say if the customer has bought because of this job, so if you can capture the job to be done, and if you tag the customer, then you should give them a different journey down the line. Because again, same product, different usage. Let me give you another example. We've made it with for a company called Hush Blankets. So they are selling weighted blankets, and the jobs to be done were totally different. I mean, some of their customers were buying this because of medical issues like insomnia or anxiety or whatever, but something like 20-something% of them were buying it for the cuddling effect when they sit in front of the TV and it's late and they want to feel this hugging by their blanket, and it was a totally different thing. I mean, some people were having anxiety and insomnia, and some of them simply wanted a nice to have feeling when they are comfy in their living room. And some of them were buying this for the gifts. Simply they wanted to give this as a gift for Christmas for their dear ones. So mainly those jobs to be done were completely differently, if you can relate to that. And the idea is that the landing pages should be differently as well. And the whole experience down the line should be differently, and the remarketing as well, because that's a neglected aspect of collecting intentional data, is that you can remarket customers differently. If you know that someone is there for the cuddling effect, you don't give remarketing ads with people which couldn't sleep and they were like with bags under their eyes.
It almost doesn't make sense not to do this. I mean, what are the downsides? Except if you're like aiming for the short-term impulse buying and you just want to make a quick buck. But if you're playing the long-term game and you consider this like as a serious business, so it doesn't make sense not to do this.
Yeah, and again, the revenue per customer is going to be get up once you nail the best form of asking. How to frame the questions is more important than people think, because we are beings of habits, right? So we change the habits according to the questions that we ask ourselves. And with the questions, you are guiding a certain behavior. And questions are this is a great quote from Clayton Christensen. Questions are creating spaces in the brain for the solutions to fall into.
Nice.
So mainly people are changing their behavior based on the questions that they ask themselves. It was a great study which was made on the intention to buy a car, right? So this research was made on something like 20,000 people. So by simply asking the customers, are you considering to buy a car in the next 6 months? Yes or no? So they've made this a control group and another control group. And only this question improved the propensity to buy by 30%. So that means questions, why shouldn't I buy a car? Because you are being asked, and then you change the behavior according to the response that you give, right?
Yeah, exactly. The questions, good question, a powerful questions, they bias the customer towards a certain journey. This reminds me of, not necessarily so related, but a nice joke about a guy that went to a Mercedes showroom, and he asked the salesperson, how much does this car cost? And he said, if you're asking, it's not for you. If you're asking for the price, this car is irrelevant for you. But this is not necessarily related, but just about what you said with regards to asking people what they are going to buy. And did you find any good form of asking the question better? Some sort of a question type that works better?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is not to ask the why questions. I mean, why questions are so intrusive because they make us activate our emotional brains, right? Because we have this, let's say, blueprint from when we were very young and we were being questioned like, why have you done this? Why have you done this? And it's like, you're not okay. So disregard the why questions. The best questions are how and what, right? So if you can frame, and you can frame a question to a why question, like to reframe it so that it starts with what, like instead of why aren't you buying from our website, what keeps you from buying from our website? And it's much more easy to relate with. And another thing is to use as few words as possible in your questions, because the brain works on neural power, right? So mainly we are having this way to prioritize the energy consumption, right? So mainly we are not there. It's like that principle, don't make me think, right? So if you ask too much from the customers, that's going to be like a friction. But if you ask in the right manner and at the right time, then the customers will feel like, yeah, I can relate with that. Like, are you having sleeping problems, or are you having problems falling asleep? Yes or no? I mean, for the ones that are having this issue, is like, yes, I want to find more about it, because these are like breadcrumbs that you put towards the product. So mainly you are justifying the purchase and you make the customers convince themselves. You don't have to convince them. They will convince themselves to buy this product because you are restating why they want this product in the first place.
Great. And we talked about a lot of best practices, but let's talk a bit about how can we get this, how can this be done on a technical standpoint? So does Reveal provide solution for all the stuff that we talked about?
Pretty much, yes. So mainly what we are doing is that we're building this Omniconvert suite. We have two components at this moment, Explore and Reveal, but we will unify everything under the same cockpit in the near future. So basically we have a solution to segment the customers. We have a solution to survey the customers. We have a solution to tag the customers and to build audiences so that you can do remarketing, and also you can do website personalization with our software. We have also integrations with Facebook, with Instagram, with the website itself. So going back, we also have integrations so that you can run this type of personalization on the website. We have integration with Klaviyo so that you can run this on the email marketing. We have integration with Gorgias so that you can tag the best customers or the detractors based on the NPS and give them a special treatment. So you can create a ticket if you have a very important customer which is pissed off. So mainly the tool stack is there at this moment. And of course, what is lacking in the market right now is the knowledge towards this. And so that's why we've decided to educate, and we have this CVO Academy, and we also have an introductory course which is completely free for the ones which are looking to learn more about it.
Awesome, great. And who are like your typical customers? People are just starting out, people with a certain amount of revenue. Can you talk about the different plans that you offer?
Yeah, so usually our customers are companies which are scaling up. So they are 7-figure plus, right? So they are 7, 8, or 9 figures e-commerce companies. We are touching the lives of many industries. So many there are companies in the food, nutrition, fashion, CPG, furniture, home and decor. So mainly there aren't specific industries that are benefiting from our solutions, and the prices are starting with something like $300 a month, which is a no-brainer if you invest, I don't know, a lot in customer acquisition. And I think this is a problem, and it was an aha moment from one of our partner agencies, because we also train agencies towards how to provide this type of services to their e-commerce customers. An aha moment was like, hey, I'm getting 60% of our revenue from returning customers, but I'm investing 100% of our marketing budget in acquisition, in acquiring new customers. So something must be changed.
Do you also provide some sort of training to the e-commerce store owners, or this is the academy?
Yeah, this is the academy. And also we are, for every customer of ours, we have a customer success manager, which is outlining the game plan. And it's having monthly or bi-monthly calls with the customers to assist them into this implementation. Because at the end of the day, theory is nothing without the experience, and experience is nothing without the theory. So you need both of them.
Great. This is a great way to finish the talk. Is there anything that we forgot to talk about, or that you would like to mention that we didn't cover?
No. So my suggestion for everyone out here is to go out there and to look into your data and get to know your customers, right? Do this research, because you'll be surprised about how many hidden gems you already have. And it's the existing customer base, it's a gold mine, but it's up to you to actually go out there and dig for the gold.
I totally agree. But I want to also re-express what you said. First, you must fix your product and make sure that the customers are very happy, that you set that the delivery at least is in their level of their expectation, and then you could go into the data. If you know that something is lacking or that you're under delivering, so fix this before you start diving into the data, because you can't fix something that is broken. You can't optimize, and this is very important, especially with beginning e-commerce stores. The CVO Academy sounds like a great resource, and I would love to check it out. And we're also going to share a link in the show notes. That's it, Valeintin. It was great. Really appreciate your time. Got a lot of ideas and new concepts that I'm going to check and implement. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well, Ron. And thanks everyone for listening. If you need my help, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Cool. Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number one, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called eCom X Factor Official. Number two, check out our Facebook group, which is called eCom X Factor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.